My name is Sandra Hindman, and I'm the owner of Les Enluminures. And we are here at Les Enluminures in New York for an exhibition, a joint exhibition. I'm a manuscript dealer and a historic jewelry dealer, and we've long wanted to do an exhibition on materiality in our material. And we invited a contemporary jeweler to join us this year in an exhibition. Her name is Joy BC. And Joy got her degree at the Glasgow School of Art and then the Royal College of Art in London, and is so young, but she's already so renowned. She's had several residencies in Japan and a residency in Italy with the famed jeweler Giovanni Corvaio. She was, and I think this is where I met her, she was the Goldsmith of the Year in 2022. And her work is already in museums in America and Europe, Nelson Atkins Museum and the Swiss National Museum. But really, it's not just because she's renowned that we have her here, but her work speaks to the materiality of objects. And that's really what this show is about, a dialogue between our objects of the past and her objects now. And the exhibit, I want to say, it's called Beyond Sight. But as I was thinking this morning about filming, I thought maybe we should have called it Beyond the Gaze, because Joy has started the exhibit with some works that are called The Gaze. And then we do hearing, smell, taste, etc. Joy, maybe you want to say a little about the gaze to start with.
Yeah, to gaze means to look with admiration. The title of the exhibition, this aspect of Beyond Sight, how do we experience artworks outside or adjacent to the visual aspect? I was thinking particularly about materiality as well. So what we're discussing about material and the properties of particular material. So both in the illuminated manuscripts and the Renaissance and medieval jewelry, the materials of which they were made of were so important, both in a symbolic sense and how they feel. It's not just about how something looks. The weight of something, is it cool or soft to the touch? Has it got a curved edge? What kind of presence does it have in its weight? You know, when you wear something or you handle something, I want it to have a sense of joy, or it conveys its narratives or its meaning also through those senses. You know, smell is so important. We have a pomander in the exhibition which has engraved details and has all different little compartments which would have different spices or smells, and how would have that felt to wear and engage with? So yeah, I think that aspect, material is so important to me. I hand make everything from start to finish. It can take me anywhere from 3 months to 3 years to complete a work. One of the pieces I'm wearing, the Artemis necklace, it's a wearable sculpture. It can be both presented and shown in a sculptural aspect off the body, but I find the engagement with the body really fascinating and interesting. It becomes a performance art, and often people look at my works and say, your works feel ancient or they feel of old world. And so the process for me is really sacred. And I think in a lot of the medieval and Renaissance pieces, that intent was so imbued within the artworks. Also, when I'm working with noble metals, there's a primordial, almost alchemical aspect. I become entranced by the process of the making. So watching the metals in their different states, when you're making an ingot, when you're making the different alloys, adding the different metals that have come from the darkness of the earth and back into this moment in which you're using fire to transform the atomic structures. I find that all really fascinating.
And I think one of the things, we're both really interested in material and touch. And you know, people always say to me, like, why do you do jewelry? What does it have to do with medieval manuscripts? But they're both intimate, small art forms. And Joy has talked about the touch, but it's the touch also that you get with medieval manuscripts.
Mhm.
I wanted to turn to another aspect of both Joy's and my work, which was sound and hearing. And this I know is really important to
Yes.
you with your earpieces. But you know, medieval manuscripts, they're out of calf skin, and when you turn the pages, they make sound, which paper doesn't really do. And Joy, I love the way you talk about hearing, because it's how I think about looking at and feeling medieval manuscripts too. So you have several earpieces in the show.
So the premise of these had started over 12 years ago when I was in Glasgow as a young student, and I was actually looking at confessional booths and how a priest would actively listen to your sins, and that aspect of active listening. How does one suspend your own inner dialogue to fully attain to the listener? And I started to think about how this can foster better relationships and conflict resolution, and it started a whole avalanche of research about listening. I even looked into Jungian psychology about the sea and how it is the symbol of the mother that sounds over everything, hence the additions of pearls later on. So I've done larger ones, I've done smaller ones. To make a talisman, to make something out of gold, also to make something out of such a precious material, is to really believe in it, to venerate it, to conscientiously put that emphasis on it.
Some of these motifs are eternal.
Absolutely. And again, what motifs do we choose to continue, or what things survive that test of time? Teardrops are something that have come up a lot in my work. I've researched those for over 10 years. It's a repeated theme symbol in my work. And you can see it here in the ring that I'm wearing, the precious tear. This is a broken emerald that in two, which I've held together with 18 karat yellow gold. And you can see this texture, which is carved in the ring, is also in the drawing. And that incorporates lapis lazuli and 24 karat gold, which are materials that resonate back to the manuscripts. But I also did a series of a little triptych of 3 miniatures. They're so beautiful. There is something that draws you in.
And, you know, speaking of tears, I actually don't have one, although I would love to. I have reliquary jewelry, and there's reliquary jewelry in the show.
Yes.
I don't happen to have a relic of the tears of the Virgin Mary, but they do exist.
They do.
But I have other relics. I mean, I have a heart reliquary of the bone of St. Lawrence on a little grill enclosed in crystal. Within this enclosed compartment of the grill and the bone of Lawrence, speaking of body parts, there's the papal stamp that in wax to approve, to guarantee that this is really Lawrence.
You know, touch is the first thing that we learn with before anything else. And we touch our screen so much, but how do we touch the objects and the material and each other? Something I'd really love to delve more into is the reliquaries and what would be considered a contemporary version of this now.
Right. But speaking of the digital world, I mean, I've thought of this a lot because, of course, manuscripts, even more than jewelry, are so available digitally now. I mean, there are surrogates of every famous manuscript on the internet. And actually, what I think is that the plethora of digital surrogates has increased our interest in the materiality of the real object, both for jewelry and for manuscripts. So there's because now people see them all the time and they want to know, like, well, it's a surrogate of what? How can I touch and feel and smell and taste the real thing?
And there is nothing like the real thing.
There is nothing like the real thing.
It's different, you know.
I say this is the new battle cry, both for the humanities and institutions, but maybe even for the art world. Nothing beats the real thing.